So there's a huge amount going on politically at the moment, and we're between eclipses. Eclipses trigger events that are significant, that catalyze the underlying currents that are going on, that are described by the slow movements of the outer planets. So on about the 7th of September, we had a lunar eclipse when the sun was opposite the moon. And then on the 21st of September, we've got a solar eclipse when the sun and the moon will be conjunct. And we've had all sorts going on. We've had that terrible assassination of Charlie Kirk, 32 years old, in the USA, political activist. The French government's fallen. The British government, well, it hasn't exactly fallen, but he's had two high-profile resignations, and it's clear after just a year in power that Starmer is seriously in trouble. We've had the first sitting Tory MP jump ship to reform in the UK. He's a shadow minister, yeah? So that's really significant. It's like it's the beginning of what could be a whole flood. And then there was something else. Yeah, that huge rally in London. 100,000 people, organised by Tommy Robinson, who is normally described as a far-right activist. He just described himself as right. Far-right is not a description, it's a judgment. So terms like far-right and racist, I just don't want to use anymore because they've just been used as weapons so much. But yeah, they're all signifying this huge political shift that's going on that we've already seen in the USA. Now, I don't want to say whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. That's not my job as an astrologer. If I do want to make a judgment, I'll make that clear. Right, I'm not being an astrologer now, yeah? But it's not our job as astrologers, as I keep saying, to make judgments. We have to stand back and describe and say how the planets are describing that. And it's a difficult thing to do. You've got to be objective, and politics is so loaded, yeah? Because it's the arena maybe more than any other where we believe what we want to believe for emotional reasons. All beliefs are like that. And the underlying planetary movement or aspect that's most important is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. That's what we need to refer all these political events back to, is the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries, which is already America's 1 or 2 steps ahead because the Saturn-Neptune conjunction has already hit the IC of its chart. Last time Neptune hit that point, they had their civil war. This time we've got Saturn and Neptune conjoining it. Last time it meant they got rid of slavery. It was a swing, if you like, to the left. This time it's a swing to the right, you could say. And it's a corrective because things have got very much to the left. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what's happening. We've had huge immigration and it's a right-wing thing to go, we want controls about that. I'm not saying that's good or bad. Trying not to. But that's what's happening. And it's huge because it's the end of the whole post-Second World War liberalism that's been founded on a fear of Hitler. That's been the foundation of our politics in many ways. Anything that looks remotely like Hitler, we can't have. So we can't even talk about immigration. And so, because the next step from talking about it is concentration camps. That's what I feel. That's how people feel. So, all that is changing. We've got Saturn and Neptune there, and then we've got Pluto sextiling it from one side, Uranus sextiling it from the other, as they both change signs too and trine each other. So it's a very strong aspect. My feel is it's not going to lead to World War III. Of course there'll be trouble. Of course there'll be horrible incidents like Charlie Kirk getting shot. But overall, I'm not doomy and gloomy about it. World War III could start under sextiles and trines. It could say it's easily happening. But But I don't feel that's what's happening. At the end of the day, with astrology, you run on your hunch. And my hunch is that these are pointing towards a relatively smooth transition. I mean, there will be revolutions. You can see that seething all over Europe. And in the UK, this mass rally is pointing to this groundswell of popular feeling that's against how the government is at the moment. And as I keep insisting, I'm not saying the government's right or wrong, or the people are right or wrong. I'm just saying this is what is happening. And you do get these collective shifts at the time of major outer planet aspects, particularly when Saturn comes in and makes a hard aspect. Saturn, Neptune, last time they were together, the Berlin Wall bloody fell. The Cold War ended. It was huge. Saturn was opposite Pluto in 2001. You got 9/11. Again, that was a huge shift in terms of how the West was. And now we've got Saturn, Neptune again. But they haven't actually quite crossed, so we don't know what it's about. But it's very clear. The writing is on the wall. We haven't had the revolution yet, but it's happening all over Europe. Australia as well. And we're fighting it. There's almost like a fight to the death. Yeah. The popular feeling is not being listened to and taken seriously by the powers that be. That's why Trump won in America, because he does listen to that popular feeling. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he listens to it. And in Europe, it's not being listened to. That's why we had the mass rally. Now, something else I want to talk about is Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage, because they're both, in their own way, at the forefront of this coming revolution based on popular feeling in the UK. But they don't talk. Nigel Farage heads up Reform, which is leading the polls by a huge margin. Tommy Robinson, same kind of platform. Their platform it's hard to distinguish. They believe in the same things. He's able to bring 100,000 people to London, and if you watch the interviews on those rallies, they're just ordinary people. They're not far right racists. They're just ordinary people with their concerns. Again, you don't have to agree with them, but they're certainly not the spawn of the devil. They're just ordinary people. Worried about certain things. Of course, you're going to get an extreme end of it, but Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson, they stand for the same things. They have the popular touch. They draw huge amounts of support, and yet Nigel Farage will not acknowledge Tommy Robinson. It's really interesting because Nigel Farage is the politician. His birth time has come out relatively recently. And looking back a couple of years, it's about what I thought it would be. I thought this guy was born on the Uranus-Pluto conjunction in Virgo in the 60s. He's got to have it on somewhere near his rising sign. Yeah, he's got this ability to transform the collective, to bring something new in. He's got form. He managed it with Brexit. He'll probably manage it again. The collective works through him. So there it is. He's born about 4:30 p.m. He's an Aries with Sagittarius moon. Tommy Robinson is a Sagittarius with Aries moon. They're very similar, both these firebrands. Yeah, both. You see, the characteristic of fire is it sees what's possible. It sees the future and says, come this way. And they both have that ability to paint a picture of the future that they believe in. Now, yeah, we haven't got a birth time for Tommy Robinson, but he was born under the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. I bet you he's got that rising in Libra. I bet you if we do find a birth time, he's either got it rising or he's got it on his midheaven. It has to be one of the two, just from his life. Farage is also the politician. So yes, he has revolutionary Uranus near his rising sign, but it's opposite Saturn. So he is both the revolutionary and yet he has caution. Saturn at the beginning of Pisces. He's just had his second Saturn return a couple of years ago, didn't he? And so he has caution as well. And so, for example, he says we've got to stop immigration, but he won't go so far as to say we need to deport people who are here illegally. He just goes, oh, that's impossible. And then a while later, when it's more politically possible, he starts suggesting that we will do that. Yeah, so he changes his mind according to what he feels it's possible to say. And that's the same with Tommy Robinson. He doesn't feel that it's possible to have Tommy Robinson near him politically. It's too loaded. It's too much dynamite. I think he will eventually, but not just yet. So that's my kind of prediction. In a way, that's what I wanted to say, because it's really interesting that these have both got charts that mirror each other. Same sun and moon in fire, but the other way round. And Farage hasn't even commented on this huge rally in London. And that says it all. So watch that space. It's just fascinating to watch those two characters, so similar and yet not speaking, believing in the same things. And like I've said for the 6th time, I'm not trying to say they're right or wrong. I'm just observing these huge shifts in the collectives and the dynamics that go on around that, the personalities that go on around that. It's just such an interesting time. Okay.